Hi, I'm Wayne Ferree, and today I'm down at Old Good Things, 400 Gilligan Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Now, at Old Good Things here, they reclaim architectural remnants and different features. They make a lot of things, and I've been wanting to do a video about how to repair broken stone. And I noticed that they had a bird bath here with some damage on it. And so I thought I would take the opportunity to show the audience how a stone could be repaired with a special restoration mortar. We're going to fix this broken piece, and it appears that it had been broken at some point in the past. And it apparently was glued with something, and that didn't last, or it was re-broken somehow. So the first thing we're going to do is take off this broken piece and or sand it down so it's level. And then we're going to cut in here, make a cut here, in here, and make a joint for the mortar to hold. Okay, this patched piece here is glued on, and it's on there pretty solid. I mean, it's not going anywhere. So what I'm going to try and do is smooth it out and see if we can save this without having to knock it off. And how I'm going to do that, I'm just going to use my pneumatic hammer and a 3/8 inch carbide bit tool. I'm going to try and smooth it out and see if we can get it to look halfway decent. If not, we're going to knock it out of there. Okay, it looks like we're going to be able to save that piece. Because of the space that the glue took, it raised the piece a little bit. We're just going to kind of bring it down to the old level. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut this part out, the damaged part, and we need to come down 1/4 of an inch for this special mortar that we're using so it'll bond properly. We're going to do that now. I want to mention an alternative to using the air hammer. You may be in a situation where you don't have air, you don't have a pneumatic hammer. This is all you've got, hammer and a chisel. We could actually prepare this with the old-fashioned way. Go ahead. So you can see that this is a great alternative method if you don't have an air hammer. We want to leave a rough texture so that our mortar has a good way to stick in there. And what this is referred to usually is you're making a key. When you make a little dent like that, that's a place for the mortar to hold. Okay, we're down about 1/4 of an inch, and that's going to meet the specifications for this special mortar we're going to use. But I'm going to continue with the air hammer and get this all cleaned out, and then we'll go from there. But we're going to finish off with this tool because this tooth chisel is going to give us grooves that are going to hold that mortar in place. Okay, that is good in there, but wherever there's an edge that meets the stone that's not broken, we need to notch it out 1/4 of an inch down. So we're going to do that along here, and along here, and along here. Okay, we're going to wet down the stone and give it a chance for this water to seep in. We want a nice tight bond. Yes, the material we're using is pretty expensive, and I'm going to create a little dam here so that I know what level to go to, and then it's also going to hold in this material on the edge while we work it. Okay, now we're going to talk about mixing this special material. It's called yawn, and I think that this is the gray patch, so it may not match perfectly. But there's things that we can do, including what's called the mud trick. We might do the mud trick to kind of match it up. But what we got to do first is, what we need to do is create what's called a slurry. And that's a sort of a watery mix of this material. We're going to put it into the damaged area, and that's going to be like a almost like a primer, so that the material sticks very good. About like that, sort of running. And then we're going to put it on with just a regular painter's palette knife. We're going to be try and be careful not to get it outside of our patch area. Okay, now we're going to mix up our patch. And we don't really want to mix more than we need because we don't like wasting material. It's expensive. After a while, you get the idea of how much you're going to use. Yeah, that's about right. Just like that. We're going to pack this in. Push it in. Push it in. If you've got really something that really needs to be really excellently passed without any trail or trace of what you're doing, you want to probably mask it off. What we do is we overbuild, because once this starts to dry up, make sure you press that in there good so it gets up against the everything. And we're going to smooth it out a little bit so that it's above what we need to do. And then we're going to scrape it down once it starts to drop. One thing I want to mention, if you're building a lot of this on in between coats, you want to key it, just like you would if you were doing a plaster wall or a cement wall. Before it really sets up and you have to come back to it maybe later, or even when it's still wet, you still want to key it. You don't want to slick it because it brings the water up to the top, and it might create sort of a layer that could fail later. Okay, we're taking this tape off now, this dam that I made, and you can see that saved us a lot of messing around there. It's probably been about an hour that we've let this set up, and it's to the point now where we can start to fashion it. And then this is a special tool manufactured to be used with this restoration mortar, and this is good for scraping the surface. So we're just going to scrape this until it's flat. The thing that's great about this restoration mortar is the fact that when you screed it into shape, it leaves a texture just like the stone. Okay, I'm going to brush off some of this debris, and we can see that we need to be about 1.25 inches or 1.1 inches away from here. As you can see, this is all done by hand. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to scrape until I get down pretty close to that shape. Now when you get down to where we had made that initial cut to prepare the stone, then you know it's time to stop. And then, as I said earlier, I wanted to try and break this off to try and make it look rough like the other piece. What I might do is just kind of poke at it with this fork. We're going to go over this with a sponge and clean off this ghosting. This is just a garden bird bath. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, it's going to be out in the weather. Going to get some bird business in it. It's going to get used, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Some of us masons know about something called the mud trick. Now, this, as we said earlier, is a gray mortar. That's all we had available. This is a buff color, and we've got gray mortar here. We want to try and match that as close as possible. So what we've done is we've gone outside and we picked up some mud, and we're going to mix this up with some water and brush it on there and see if we can match that color. What I'm going to do is just kind of daub this color on, because I can't be here all day. I've got some other things I've got to get done. So we're going to just daub this on here. This material, it takes a while to cure. It takes about 24 hours to really cure. You don't want it to freeze. You don't want it to get too dry. But it works really well for matching stone. Okay, I'm going to try and brush this a little bit with this sponge, so to make it so it doesn't look so mottled. Okay, we finished with our patch, and in order to blend it in, we've used what we call the mud trick. But this mortar is still wet, and the mud is still wet, and I think that when it dries, it's going to blend in very well. At any rate, we've done what we can here, and I'm glad you had the opportunity to see how we do this, and thank you very much for watching.